Welcome everyone to Political Paradigm. I am Terry Ikumi. Today we'll x-ray the education sector, specifically tertiary education, especially considering the strike action, which was initially suspended by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, but would likely resume in about a month if the federal government does not fulfill its obligations, according to the Academic Staff Union of Universities. And I'm joined virtually by the president of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, Professor Chris Piwuna. Prof, welcome to Political Paradigm.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. This has become quite interesting and concerning for me, especially because since joining this organization, I've been speaking with just about every president of the union on strike actions. It's become one too many, and even I'm getting tired. I know I spoke with Professor Abiodun, I spoke with Professor Sodeke, and here I am speaking with you about the same thing, and it still boils down to the 2009 agreement and some other issues which we will talk about. But I'm really getting tired of it. Well, let me begin by asking you this question. It's been almost a week now since you suspended the strike action. Is there any update from the government? Has the government reached out to you for a meeting?
Well, thank you very much. Since we suspended the action, we have engaged with offices of government, Office of the Integrated Payment Bureau, that's IPPIS. We've engaged with the Office of the Accountant General. We engaged with Alhaji Alamed, members of his committee, and some of the issues are currently being addressed. As at this morning, more of our branches have acknowledged receiving their check-off dues that were withheld during the 2022 strike action. Also, before the weekend, we also had received information that the Office of the Accountant General has received the tranche of money meant for our promotion arrears, and they were at the verge of disbursing that money. That was on Friday last week. We also have information that the Office of the IPPIS office is waiting for the approval of the Accountant General to pay our 2.8 billion pension deductions that they need to pay to our PFA, that is the NUPEMCO. So those are the things that have happened since we suspended the strike.
The union has said that if its demands are not met in a month, that it will be a full-blown strike action. It's interesting that you already mentioned some demands that are being met. Is your stance that all the demands will be met? Or are you saying that there's room for compromise or patience where necessary? Because if I recall correctly, your concerns are around the 2009 agreements. You want improved funding for universities. You want better working conditions and payment of withheld salaries, among other things. What exactly are some of these demands that you believe? Because I don't think you believe that the federal government in a month can meet all your demands.
I don't think this is a very fair question while negotiations are ongoing. It would be unfair for us to give an answer to the question that you've asked. All we can say is that we've given 4 weeks. NLC has backed us on that matter, and we're hoping that whatever the differences are, we will be able to achieve something and, never look forward.
Prof, I understand why you would say that, but you must understand that there are students who are watching this and want to understand what exactly ASUU wants. Because if you follow the conversation, I'm sure you've heard students who believe that ASUU is being selfish. So if you explain to the student what exactly your priorities are in this fight, and I ask this because since the 2009 agreement, administration after administration, there have been renegotiations of that agreement.
Students are watching, they are listening to me, and I just want this students who are watching or who will watch this program to check up in their dictionaries what the meaning of negotiation is. What does it mean to negotiate? To negotiate means you're coming to meet another person with an open mind to take what you think is reasonable, and the other person would also take from you what he accepts as reasonable. And so for the students, they should find comfort in the meaning of the word negotiations. We are not going to state what the terms are. I've already explained, and you have also agreed with me that it may not be strategic to say those things now. The government itself will not tell us now, if you ask them how far they can go. They will not say it publicly, but we're engaged in a negotiation, and we're with an open mind. We are coming with an objective mindset. We hope that we can close the gaps and take decisions that will bring us closely
I agree with you.
Each other. That is what I can say to students.
I would be speaking with the Minister of Education, I believe that of State, in a short while. And I will pose this question. I would pose this question to the Minister of State or Education, and I believe that the minister would want to say clearly that it was almost impossible for the federal government to meet all the demands of ASUU within 1 month to avoid a strike. Now, these demands are quite strategic. There are those that apply directly to the lecturers, talking about salaries, remuneration, and all, and there are those that affect the institution directly with regard to infrastructure, revitalization, and all that. I think that some of the conversations I've heard around this suggest that the priority should be revitalization and improving infrastructure for schools. If you go to the negotiating table and the federal government meets your remuneration needs, salaries, and all, the aspect of revitalization is not something that can be met right away.
The issue of our salaries, I think it is one that has been in the public space for a very long time. We are the least paid lecturers in Africa. We are at the very bottom, despite the wealth of this country, the resources available, despite government's public statements about how revenue has improved since the removal of subsidy, and how government literally tax everything that we do in this country except the air that we breathe. Everything else is being taxed in this country right now. And so with all of that, we are not in any position, we are not willing, we are not going to accept any discussion, any offer with government that is not based on what was agreed at the NIMI BRICS, as the NIMI BRICS benchmark that we have discussed with Alhaji Yahya Ali Ahmed. The issue of our salary, increase in our salary, even with that 35% that they have offered to us, we are still the least paid in the whole of Africa. In fact, the state universities in Nigeria earn much more. Some of them, not all of them. There are state universities that earn much more, almost double what some of our universities, federal universities, earn. And so the issue of our salary is one that government needs to give a very careful thought.
I'm just trying to understand ASUU's priorities when it comes to this negotiation, because there are those who believe that if ASUU goes into this negotiation for just itself and then focuses on ensuring that all the remuneration packages are met, the aspect of university autonomy, retirement, aid, funding, research and development, collective bargaining, these are things that were contained in the 2009 agreement. And then the aspect of the revitalization fund, which I know that successive governments have paid certain amount, but other governments have been renegotiating. Talk to us about those other aspects of this renegotiation.
When people say, ASUU is just fighting for itself, I wonder where that thought is coming from? Is it that the persons who are saying that have never entered any university? Don't they have relations that work in universities? Their children who are in the universities, can't they tell them that even the hostels they live in as a result of the struggles of the academic staff union of universities? The federal government just said they are going to provide solar energy to certain universities, about 18 or so universities in the country. The money is coming from TED Fund. How did TED Fund come to be? TED Fund was as a result of a strike that was embarked upon by ASUU. Unfortunately, that is the language that government best understands, unfortunately. But when people say we are fighting for ourselves, it beats our imagination. Look at how ASUU has stood firmly, very firmly, against the introduction of school fees in Nigerian public institutions, universities. ASUU has stood firmly until the last strike. Until the last strike, when Nigerians were blaming us, saying all sorts of things about our strike, the government took us to court. They forced us back through the courts to come back to work. As soon as we came back, universities, government introduced increased charges in Nigerian universities. Parents are still suffering from that, but they don't remember that it was only ASUU that stood against it. We are no longer going to apologize to anybody that our wealth, our salary needs to be improved, and that it is as important to us as the infrastructural development.
Yeah, so that's why I'm asking you. That's why I'm asking you. Apart from the remuneration aspect, what is the government saying with regard to the other aspect of improving the quality of education, a revitalization of the education sector, tertiary education sector specifically? What is the government offering? You just said the government is offering 35%, which ASUU is okay with for now. What else is the government?
Okay. We are not okay with 35%. I said it is a non-starter. The 35% is a non-starter. We are not okay with it. They have not even started talking to us as far as we are concerned on that 35%. That aside, we have issues that are about funding university education. We have made suggestions to them. They have accepted some. They have rejected some. For the Revitalization Fund, they have released 50 billion naira for revitalizing public universities. We say thank you for that effort, but it is not enough. We have over 150 public universities in this country. We have over 150. And to think that number is going to share 50 billion naira in this day and age that the naira has no value whatsoever is a drop in the ocean. But it's an effort, and we acknowledge it. We hope that in no time there will be more releases. The issue of funding is a different kettle of fish, and we have told government that they should make efforts or take a position to at least meet the 26% UNESCO benchmark that has been suggested. Mm-hmm. But we also have looked at that 26% and realized that it will be difficult for government to commit 26% right now into the university education. So we said they can start with a target of 15%. And even the 15%, they should do it incrementally. So if they are giving, say, 10% this year, it should be 12% next year. It should be 14% until they get to that 50%. So incrementally, there will be a movement towards meeting the 15% and subsequently 26%. Yep. In that same issue regarding the funding of public education, we have told government that the envelope system of budgeting cannot support universities. Universities are not like the civil service. And that is one of the key problems that the government team keeps bringing to us. Universities, you can't budget for universities the way you budget for Ministry of Agriculture, for Ministry of Education, or even for NUC. Universities are peculiar. Our services in the university includes teaching, research, and community service. They don't teach in the Ministry of Education. Nobody teaches in NUC. Nobody teaches in the Ministry of Agriculture. So the budget should reflect what universities do. Teaching, for one. Research is another. Budget should be tailored towards those needs and responsibilities that universities carry out. It may interest you to know, Terry, that today there is no budget line in Nigerian universities that covers teaching. Government does not provide for it. And so they cannot lump us together with other parastatals. And that's one of the key missteps that we think the ministry did in their position or counter position to the demands that we made. On the issue of funding, their responses were as if they were thinking of a budget template that would apply to the Ministry of Education. Universities are different. We can't be treated the way ministries are treated. So funding, we have said that envelope budgeting cannot work for Nigerian universities. On the same issue of funding, government has shifted virtually every responsibility of funding to TED Fund. That cannot be sustainable. Already, they are taking funds from TED Fund for NEL Fund. Already, they are taking funds from TEL Fund from all these services that the ministry is trying to introduce. That was not the original mandate of TED Fund. And after this strike, I hope there won't be strike. After this struggle that we have embarked on now, we are going to face TED Fund squarely. The issue of TED Fund will be top on our agenda.
Yes, I was even going to ask you.
I
was going to ask you about TED Fund as well, with regard to its impact, and then ask you that while you question the impact of TED Fund and the budgeting process of the country, especially with regard to education as it falls below the UNESCO provision, what other source of funding? Because you also said that you know that the government cannot do 26% as recommended by UNESCO. What other source of funding beyond TED Fund that you believe that the government can utilize?
In our agreement, in the 2009 agreement that we're trying to renegotiate, we have suggested to government different ways that education could be funded. We suggested a percentage on phone calls, a certain percentage for every call made to go into funding education. And this funding of education is not just university, primary school, secondary school, polytechnics, colleges of education, universities. A percentage of that should go to education. They took that idea, not this government, they took that idea and were going to use it, take the money from the calls for some other purposes other than education. We have also suggested to them that stamp duty, is also one means of improving funding to education. We have also suggested to government that stop outsourcing consultancy, because right now we are running government as a government of consultants. Every parastatal, every ministry, everything, very soon, before the Minister of Education will sign a memo, he will need a consultant, or they will need consultants to look at the memos. That is the way government is running these days. Everything is consultants. And who are the consultants? They are the consultants. Their cronies are the consultants. And we have said to cut costs and conserve money for government, you can use universities as consultants. You can use academics as consultants. We are not going to charge them what the millions that they are giving their friends and cronies who serve as consultants for everything. Now, even this 50 billion naira of revitalization that we are talking about, the 50 billion naira they have released, consultants are trying to take, how much did they say? is it 7.5 or 10% out of the 150 billion naira that was already approved? So consultants may take about 15 billion naira for consultancy. Meanwhile, there is no university in Nigeria that will get 1 billion naira. And a few people who serve as consultants can take all that away. The minister has promised us that President Ahmed Tinubu has said that should not happen. And we are watching, because he told us at a meeting that President Tinubu has said that issue of consultants should be dropped.
Prof, I do not envy you at all. I mean, you've inherited a system from your predecessors which requires you to always compel or fight the government just to get something done. I mean, take a look at an agreement since 2009. It's what we're still battling in 2025. So negotiations, renegotiations, agreements, back and forth. I want to ask you with regard to this present administration, which is a little over 2.5 years old. What is the body language of the president with regard to improving education, especially as far as the tertiary institutions are concerned, and that 2009 agreement?
Well, thank you for that question. I mean, people have said that the 2009 agreement has outlived about 5 presidents, and that it has outlived about 18 ministers of education, both the senior and the Minister of State. We hope that Dr. Tunji Alausa, the Honorable Minister of Education, will take it upon himself that he will not hand over the 2009 agreement to any minister. This government, in words, they have said they want to improve education. They have written it in their manifesto, and we're holding them onto it. They have started NELFON. Like we said, NELFON as a loan was not an idea that we supported, but it is on, and we are willing to ensure that it succeeds, so that students will benefit, parents will be relieved. This government has also touted the fact that for the 2.5 years they've been in power, there has been no ASUU strike. And we actually thought that they took that very seriously, beyond rhetorics. So that's the last warning strike shows that it wasn't taken seriously. That's what it means, because we expect that if government had 2.5 years to settle down, and ASUU made that sacrifice, settle down and solve this problem. And when we started drawing their attention to it, it was as if we had become a pest. You know, when you hear the comments that government officials, particularly from the Ministry of Education, make about ASUU, it's like the fault is with ASUU. ASUU is unreasonable. ASUU, the strike is not necessary. We have done everything. Where is it? Where is the everything you have done? Where is it? Show us. Where is it? Where is it? The 50 billion naira revitalization fund, they have released it. Take it again for them. Even though the issue of the consultants that are raised and the release of the fund, it's still not been.
But the minister says, as far as that 50 billion naira is concerned, that is ASUU's internal issues that should be held responsible for it being unused.
You know, one of the problems that I think both of us have, both ASUU as represented by me and the Minister of Education who represents government, is that we tend to talk about individual steps or things not done or things that should be done. And I honestly thought that as Honorable Minister of Education, the office is so high, is so high, that that office cannot be talking about these issues the way they are talking about it. And when they talk about it that way, we respond to it in the name that we want to put the record straight. That hasn't helped. I think we should just leave that aside. What is the problem in front of us? What is the problem in front of us? What can we do to
No,
solve
no,
the problem? How can we move on from this problem?
Let's not leave that aside, because we're talking about a 150 billion naira revitalization fund, which the government says it has agreed to pay. It inherited that, and it has paid 50 billion. The money, according to the minister, is still sitting in the bank and has not been released to the respective accounts because of ASUU's issues. Is this true or not?
Terry, that is what I'm talking about. If I say on the media now, the problem with that 50 billion naira that the minister is blaming us, if I give you my own version or our own version of that 50 billion naira, it will make him to respond again.
We're talking about students who are listening to you now, who want to know what the problem is. This revitalization fund is for the institutions. What exactly is the problem with the money? The minister has openly said ASUU is to be blamed for why the money has not been distributed or why it's still sitting in their bank account till now. So what's ASUU's own response to that? Or you don't care what the students think?
Well, students, I'm very sorry that the answer that I'm giving to Terry is not addressing your concerns. But trust me, it is better that I don't say what I think is holding it back. It is better.
You know, this almost corroborates the minister's position.
Let us,
Prof.
This matter can be resolved.
Yeah, I agree, Prof.
Leave that.
This corroborates the minister's position that ASUU is holding up that money because of its internal issues. So as far as revitalization fund is concerned, it almost exonerates the federal government. Is it safe to say that?
I should have known that the kind of journalist you are, you will not let this matter go. You're very tenacious and I mean, that's your specialty. But again, I want to repeat that my response, ASUU's response to that comment by the minister will not be helpful at this point. And I'm pleading that let us let this matter rest. It will be resolved, and we are not going to respond to the minister publicly on that matter anymore. We have written, he knows what we wrote. We gave our reasons why that the decision that he wants to take should not be taken. We gave our reasons. It is in writing. We've told him at meetings, and that is where we are. And we don't want to join issues with him publicly. He can go on and keep talking about how ASUU is holding back that money, but we've made our positions clear to him.
Okay.
If he wants to talk about it further, he can read the letter publicly that we wrote to him.
Okay, let's dwell a little more on this administration and its efforts in the education sector. Yes, it's not budgeting enough. Still way below 7% in the last budget is way below UNESCO's recommendation. But the government says it is taking extra steps. You've just said that you welcome NEL Fund even though you don't support it. Could you explain why you don't support NEL Fund even though it's been commended?
Well, like I said, when the idea of NEL Fund came, they wanted to give students loan for their studies. And in fact, it started with the idea of a students bank, a bank. I think that was what Babalakin SCN was proposing at that time. We opposed it. This has happened in the past, and it didn't work. So we were wary whether it will work. The current chief of staff to the president, the Right Honorable Bajapia Mila, who was Speaker of the House of Reps and the originator of that bill for students' loan, made an argument, and I thought that argument was a brilliant argument, to be honest with you. He said, you should not insist that it will not work again. It makes sense. It makes sense. So that is there. Apart from that, we also argued and said that, look, if you have this money the way you have it, why don't you make it a grant so that students can secure these grants and go to school and do not have to be burdened with paying back the loan in an economy that the unemployment rate is in the skies, in an economy that purchasing power is so, poor. We made economic arguments against a loan. Government ignored us and still went ahead to start the loans. The point where we are now, for Nigerians to know, is that government had made its bed. They will lie on that bed.
Absolutely, Prof.
We hope they will sleep well on that bed. We hope Nelfon will succeed. It is a prayer that we have for them.
All right. Prof, let's wrap this up. I have just one more question for you, and it's also part of federal government's interventions, especially in this era of increased hardship following removal of fuel subsidy. The federal government has, I think since May, said it will release CNG buses to universities. Are you aware if this is in place already?
These are political statements, honestly. They are. I stay in the University of Jos. I haven't seen any CNG bus here. When I go to Abuja tomorrow or next, I'm going to check in the University of Abuja whether they have the CNG buses. The Honorable Minister of Education, Dr. Tunja Alausa, launched, I think, filling stations at the University of Abuja to supply CNG buses. So, okay, some efforts are being made in that regard. But in relieving Nigerians or Nigerian students of the CNG buses, I have seen students' union leaders with those CNG buses. I have not seen the buses carrying students to classes, to their hostels and back. That is not to say it is not happening, but the hype about it, you would have expected that once you enter the university, what you see are buses. University of Jos is organizing or hosting Nuga Games in about 2 weeks or so. All the buses in the University of Jos that are meant to work during these Nuga Games, all of them are Methuselah buses in the late 80s. Some of those buses are the buses that are still running today, with a few that came with PTF when General Buhari was the head of PTF. Those are the buses that are still running in the university.
Right.
One would have expected that by now, almost 3 years after the promise or after the removal of the subsidy, we would have seen these things. Even staff would have benefited from it in terms of their movements,
all right,
to work.
Prof.
But there is the penetration for those buses. I think government needs to look at it again.
All right,
but they're not there.
Prof, I'd like to thank you very much for your time on Political Paradigm, and we'll keep close tabs on that meeting you have with the federal government, and hopefully in a month we won't see another full-blown strike.
That's what we're hoping, that we'll all celebrate. I hope I'll be back on this program in 4 weeks' time and tell you how much we intend to do to improve the system without a strike. That, our vision of a system that will not be interrupted by any strike.
Okay, let's work on that then. Thank you very much, Prof. Well, I've been speaking with Professor Chris Piwuna. He's the president of the Academic Staff Union of Universities. We'll be right back, and we'll be speaking with the Minister of State for Education. Just stay with us. Welcome back to Political Paradigm. I'm now joined virtually by the Minister of State for Education, Professor Suwaiba Ahmed. Prof, welcome to Political Paradigm.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're excited that ASUU was called off the strike because this administration was already boasting about not having any strike action by the union so far, but sadly this is the situation. So let me just ask you as we progress now, what sort of engagement you had with the union since the strike action was called off? It's almost a week now.
We had series of, let me start by first saying good day. But we have series of engagement with the union. When they declared this, already we are having a series of meetings with them. But then we had a slight issue that resulted in them calling the strike. After they called the strike, of course, we reach out to them and have a discussion on some of the issues that resulted in the union calling the strike. What we did immediately after we called the strike was to reach out with the leadership, had series of discussion. After those series of discussion, which we understand where the problem is, we talked to them that they should give officially the position of the union to the government. Because what happened was that they gave series of demands, and based on the negotiation, we created, let me just give a bit of a background so that you understand what really happened, although I know the minister have talked about it several times.
All right.
We came on board, and we came on board already. There is an existing negotiation committee, which Yael Ahmad is heading that particular negotiation committee. But then, apart from the leadership of Yael Ahmad, they had a subcommittee. The subcommittee were tasked with the responsibility of negotiating with ASUU. This subcommittee was headed by the Pro-Chancellor of Federal University of Accra, and then membership from the ministry and NUC. So they had series of meetings based on the initial agreement. They came up with now a new agreement that was submitted to the committee of Yael Ahmad, because the subcommittee was working for that committee. It was submitted and then later presented to the ministry. But we reviewed the negotiation terms, what they agreed to, and we realized that there are some key gaps in terms of what was agreed on. Some of those key gaps is that we realized that the composition of the committee does not have any high-level or high-ranking member from the government side in terms of the directors that should be part of it, or permanent secretary. All the members from the ministry were not either directors or permanent secretary, and therefore they are not at the level of decision making. Based on that, some of the terms they agreed to will be very difficult to implement. So because of that, we decided that we need to actually create and compose a high-level committee. This high-level committee will be in charge of now reviewing the submission from this committee and looking at it critically, understanding those that can be implemented, items that are not feasible based on statutory provisions, based on law. They will now give recommendation, which we are going to get back to us on that. So we created this high-level technical working committee that we called under the leadership now of the permanent secretary, Federal Ministry of Education. Members of this high-level subcommittee include Permanent Secretary of Ministry of Labor. It also includes the budget, Director of Budget, Director of Salaries and Wages, and also the Solicitor General of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So these are the high-level technical working committee. The tasks of this technical working committee, they are tasked with sitting down, reviewing the terms of agreement between the subcommittee that negotiated with ASUU, and giving now the position of the government, a realistic position of the government. So that was done even before they called the strike. But then in giving the position of the government to ASUU, because we had to set this high-level committee and they had to review each and every item. The deadline given by ASUU for us to get back to ASUU, we couldn't meet that deadline. We asked them for extension, and when we went to present, I think there was a bit of a gap in terms of presenting the position of the government, which led to ASUU calling the strike. Okay. But then after ASUU has called the strike, we decided we call them, sort out the issues, and bring them back to the table now. They had about 2 engagements before they call off the strike between the ILA group and also the leadership of that technical working committee that was created. They had series of meetings with ASUU. They had the first meeting an official presentation with clear explanation of all the positions of government in each of the items that they had concern on. So we presented that position. ASUU said, okay, they will go back to their members, present this position before coming back to the government, which was done, and they came back and they had another series of meetings, which resulted in them calling off the strike, because even between that time, we are able to give them some information. We are also able to achieve some of the key issues that they identified as part of the bottlenecks,
Absolutely.
as part of what they wanted from the government.
Okay, Prof, the details of this negotiation will be very important so that the public understands where to point fingers with regard to blame. I've just come off a conversation with the president of ASUU as well, and it would seem that what we know, or what we thought we knew, was the 2009 agreement, the issue of salary increase, which they said the federal government had said 35%, that even though they're not satisfied with 35%, that they would take that for now. There's also the issue of the Revitalization Fund and the improving welfare and all that. But you've also just mentioned that there's a new agreement drafted by ASUU to which the federal government is paying attention. Could you make available the details of this agreement, which seems to be different, if it is, from what we've always known?
Basically, some of the items that we are still having discussions with the union on, I can mention that there are some items related to condition of service. And some of these items related to condition of service, there are rules, regulations, statutory provisions that we have to confirm that whatever we agreed to aligns with that. But we have gone a long way in terms of reaching an agreement with us in some of the provisions and the condition of service. And there is also the aspect of this third-party deduction as a result of movement to IPPIS that we are trying to sort out, and then the movement back now to JIPMIS. That we have to reach out to Accountant General Office, but we are able to also identify key plans in terms of when payment will be done and in terms of even the outstanding balances that need to be paid. So we have made progress in that regard also. I think apart from the salary issues and the conditions of service and this third-party deduction, and also staff that went on sabbatical during the period of IPPIS. So these are some of the lingering issues that we are still discussing with ASUU. But as I mentioned, we have made a lot of progress, and that was why ASUU called off the strike. And even after the strike was called off, we continued. In fact, the technical working committee that is trying to finalize the agreement with ASUU had a meeting on Saturday from 11 a.m. up to 7:30 p.m., trying to sort out all the other outstanding issues and give a specific date at when we'll be able to make those payments and all the other issues that they asked of, which already we have submitted that report to the ILO committees, and he's going to have a meeting with them on Saturday. He's going to have the meeting tomorrow with us to present now the updated position of the government to the union.
Absolutely. Prof, in calling off the strike, ASUU had said that if in 1 month, all their demands are not met, they would go into a full-blown strike. This was just a warning strike. I've also just spoken with the president of ASUU, and I asked him what the priorities are, because I dare say that the federal government would not be able to meet all these demands in a month, because some of them require long-term solutions. So what is priority for the government with regard to these demands?
In terms of the demands from ASUU, I think this administration has done a lot. This is a 2009 agreement that has been lingering for 16 years. It has not been implemented. It keeps government just look at low-hanging fruits and just address those low-hanging fruits. And then the cycle is a continuous process. But for us coming on board, what we want to do is to completely finalize and iron out all the issues as contained in that agreement, so that we can have we can deal with all the issues and forget about those issues as contained in the 2009 agreement, so that other people that come on board will be talking about something else, not still talking about 2009 agreement. So many years have passed from that agreement. We are taking each of these issues, each of these demands by ASUU, and we are trying to do the best we can based on available resources and also in line with existing laws and policies and statutory provisions. So we are trying to iron out all the issues, not just look at just those that are low-hanging and then just keep pushing the 2009 agreement without really reaching.
Pardon me, Honourable Minister. Pardon me, Honourable Minister. This 2009 agreement that has dragged for so long, I know that successive governments have tried to renegotiate it, because some have considered it to have outlived its time. Is this government renegotiating that 2009 agreement?
Let me just say this. As we mentioned, in terms of the salary increment, we have agreed with the union that we are going to have a dedicated allowance for the teaching staff in the university. We are going to have a dedicated allowance, which was what we presented as the 35% increment, is in terms of the welfare of the lecturers. This is a 35% increment, and we didn't just come up with that number. We did our own analytics and understand what is it that as a government we can be able to give to this union, and we agree on that 35% based on our analysis and knowing that, yes, we can be able to achieve that. So we didn't just draw that number out of blue. That's number one. Apart from that, also, all the other issues as contained in the conditions of service also, that is why part of the committee, we have the Solicitor General as part of that committee, so that we are guided by the law. We don't want a situation whereby we do something and then when it comes down now to implementation, it becomes cumbersome and it becomes troublesome for whoever is in charge of that implementation to implement. So we want to be guided by that. Yes.
All right. So with regard to improvement in funding for universities?
The aspects of revitalization, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, coming on board, promised to give 150 billion as part of the revitalization to tertiary institutions. And of course, already these 150 billions are to be paid in tranches, three tranches of 50 billion each. Already the 50 billion is in the coffers. We already have that funds. It's just that now to agree on how to do the disbursement of that funds. And we are calling for IMC meeting, which during the IMC meeting will finalize. The committee will finalize in terms of disbursement and all the processes attached to that. So in terms of revitalization, it's already there. And in terms of and academic allowances, we have done the mainstreaming of these and academic allowances. Instead of every year the union had to fight to get their allowances, now we have done the mainstreaming, which was also one of the greatest achievements that we are able to achieve, to be able to mainstream these and academic allowances into the universities. So as far as you served, you'll be able to earn your allowance. So we were also able to devise a means of doing that mainstreaming. And that was why I'm sure the union will say this. We have achieved a lot in terms of our discussion with them. We discuss with them, we understand where they are coming from, and we try to address all their issues.
I know you are pressed for time, and I'm trying to squeeze out as much as I can from you. But let me ask you, as far as this revitalization fund is concerned, that 50 billion naira is sitting in the bank now and has not been distributed. I know the Minister of Education had said that ASUU is to blame. ASUU, on the other hand, doesn't want to speak extensively on it, but there are concerns from ASUU around the consultant who would take a certain amount from that money.
I think that's part of the reason why we are calling for the IMC meeting, because as I'm sure the ASUU president will mention to you, we were not there when the process kick-started, but then we had a slight issue in terms of somebody introducing himself as a consultant. So number one, we had to do our own investigation in terms of following the files and what is happening. But then we cannot make any decision now. We have to call for that IMC meeting, which we are going to call as soon as possible.
All right.
It's during that IMC meeting, which there is membership comprises of both the union and also government. So we are going to, during that particular IMC meeting, all these issues around the consultant, around the processes and disbursement is going to be ironed out through that. I can't preempt the process by saying that this is a decision that we are going to take. It has to be at the committee level, and it has to be a collective decision, not just a decision by the government, but it has to be a collective decision between the government and the unions also. That is why we have the IMC committee.
On behalf of the Nigerian students, I want to ask you this question, because if this strike resumes at the end of after a month of this suspension, a great percentage of Nigerians would likely blame the federal government for not keeping to its agreements. You already say that certain actions are being taken to prevent that strike, that full-blown strike. But let me ask you a question. As government, how confident are you that within a month you would fulfill your own obligation to the point that there would be no strike from the union?
We are doing everything possible, and I can say that as a government, we've been reaching out to the union. They know that we speak to them, we give them time, we drop everything we are doing to create time to have these discussions, to address all their issues. Since even before they call the strike, right from when we assume office, we always have an open door policy for them. We've been having series of meetings. We had met, I cannot actually name the number of times that we had sat down with the union, not only ASUU, but all other unions in the tertiary institutions. We create time so that we can address their issues. And even right now, as I'm speaking, I told you that we are going to, the ILO committee is going to have a meeting with ASUU tomorrow, which before that, we had a meeting during weekends. These are our weekends, Saturday, all the PAMSEC, everybody that is part of that committee turned out for that meeting. Even the PAMSEC was amazed that all these high-ranking members forfeited their weekends to be part of that meeting on a Saturday that lasted 4 hours, from 11 to 7 p.m., more than 8 hours, 7:30 p.m., more than 8.5 hours, sitting there trying to ensure that we have come to an agreement in terms of what the government can do. Okay. And we are going to go back and also have another meeting with the union to ensure that we don't go on strike. Part of our achievement that we are always proud of is this ability to sit down with the unions and reach a conclusion together with them. So from what we are doing and from the efforts we are putting, I don't think ASUU will go back on strike again. Sure. Because as far as negotiation is concerned, we are negotiating with them, and it goes against every rule when we are in negotiation for ASUU now to go back and say we are going on strike. We have this good faith and goodwill that we believe that ASUU also wants the student to stay in school. We want the student, this is our number one priority, for our students to attend school and also have the best that they can have as a country. And the ASUU, I'm sure, also have similar objective and vision also. So I don't think ASUU will say that they are going on a strike, because the government is doing its 100%, its own part in ensuring that we agree, in ensuring that we address all the issues.
Finally, Honorable Minister, ASUU has accused the government of neglecting tertiary institutions. The question of budgeting for Nigeria's education sector is also there.
This administration, if you look at the budgetary provision for 2024 and compare it with that of 2023, I think there is about almost 200% increment. From 2024 to 2025, there is another huge, more than 150% increment in terms of the provision for funding in the education sector. And people keep saying that is below UNESCO recommendation. And then when you look at the UNESCO recommendation, if you look at documents, there is no document that says this is the recommendation and that is available. It's not. And even the figure I've been quoted is not even the actual figure that was even quoted in one of the methods they had. So I don't know where that information comes from, but I can assure you that this government is very serious about education. It keeps increasing the education budget, and we are still going to have an increment even because it's one of the major priority for this administration.
I asked the ASUU president what his understanding is or what is visible in schools with regard to the CNG buses, because yes, it's the federal government's initiative to roll out CNG buses so that, the transportation concerns in universities would be addressed. He says it's not visible enough. He says in Jos it's not there. He's just saying that he's questioning the federal government's CNG bus scheme.
We just started with that. It's a gradual process. I'm sure it will reach every university. It's just like it's in phases. Most of the programs goes in phases. You don't start something and say that 100% you want every school to have it immediately. You have to phase these programs out, just like the rural electrification, the solarification of the universities. We have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 is in phases. But at the end of the day, before the end of the program, we'll ensure that each and every institution benefit from that. So as I mentioned, I don't know clearly what he wants us to do, but it's a process that has started and is a process that will continue. We ensure that students have access, have transportation to the university. Affordable transportation is part of our mandate and is part of our priority.
Honorable Minister, I'd like to thank you for your time and thank you for squeezing out time from your busy schedule to make this conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. I've been speaking with the Honorable Minister of State for Education, Professor Suwaiba Ahmad. Well, that's Political Paradigm. If you'd like to catch this conversation, the entire conversation, that of the ASUU president and the minister, please go to YouTube and search Political Paradigm or simply go to channelstv.com. Thank you for your time as well. I'm Terry Kumi. Goodbye.